What's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a great day. So this video, this discussion and review, is a very special discussion and review for me. I guess you could say, this is kind of a treat for myself. Because you see, when I changed my name from Zach's Horrors to just my name now, Zach Hall, I did that, and I had an ulterior motive to that. My ulterior motive was that I wanted to cover this specific film that we're about to talk about. And why would I change the name and the content of my channel completely just to cover one film? Because the film we're about to discuss is my favorite film of all time. Out of all the films I've seen lots of fantastic, great, amazing, bad, horrible, I've seen movies out there that I've thought were so bad that I wanted to find the people that make it and beat them down. Out of all those films I've seen, one film, it just can't be topped in my personal opinion. That being the 1998 epic war classic directed by Steven Spielberg, Saving Private Ryan. I'm not kidding you, this is my favorite film of all time. And go ahead and just get into the basics first of why this is my favorite movie. It takes place during my favorite historical time period, World War II. It's directed by my favorite filmmaker, Steven Spielberg. It stars my favorite actor, Tom Hanks. And to top things off, the music is composed by my favorite cinematic composer of all time, John Williams. So, that's just the basics, and just to prove that I am a big World War II buff. I've got lots of proof here. I've got books. I've got movies. I've got HBO miniseries. And I've even got video games. Yes, if that's not enough proof, I can bring out my entire World War II, just everything to do with World War II. But I'm not going to do that because I don't have all night. But I want to talk about Saving Private Ryan, because Saving Private Ryan, it always stood out to me the most. This was kind of my first introduction to, like, war films. And I'm not even really the biggest, like, war movie fan. Like, I love all your classics, like We Were Soldiers and Platoon and Full Metal Jacket. I love all your Kelly's Heroes, A Bridge Too Far, Thin Red Line. I love all those movies. But then there's some war movies I've seen that are not really, like Dunkirk was not really for me personally. I know that seems to be a lot of people's favorite war movie. Now, it's not mine. I'm not a fan of that movie, but, I still respect the filmmaking that went into that. But Saving Private Ryan, Hacksaw Ridge is another great one. I love all these great war movies, but then I've seen some pretty bad ones as well. But, yeah, I've got my notebook here, as always. I can't do a video without my notebook anymore. So, let's go ahead and get into it. Let me sip my water. Stay hydrated. Water's always good for you. Make sure to drink lots of it. So you've got the opening scene. And I'm not talking about that opening scene. Not the opening battle scene. I'm talking about the scene before that kind of is a little bit of a tearjerker. Because you see this old man. He's walking through the memorial of the people that invaded Normandy. And it's a tearjerker because you see this man and he just breaks down. It's just, I guess it all just hits him. It's just a very tear-jerking scene. Even just watching him walk through the field and you see all the memorials and all that, it really brings tears to my eyes. But then we go back to June 6, 1944, where the Allied forces are landing on the beaches of Normandy. And we get to specifically focus on Omaha Beach, where we're introduced to John Miller, played by Tom Hanks, as he takes his squad onto the beaches. And when those ramps lower, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you now, if you've never seen this movie and you are sensitive to graphic violence and you can't handle it, this is not for you, because this movie, I'm going to tell you right now, is heartbreaking. This movie is devastating. This movie is just, I can't even put it to words right now, but just this opening 25-minute scene of chaos. This opening 25 minutes is chaos. You don't know what the fuck's going on, and just imagine how the people that actually landed on Omaha Beach and all the other beaches felt. I remember when I was a young kid, and when I was in school, we were doing this like Veterans Day thing, and we had all these different veterans that came, and this one kid brought his grandfather that landed on beaches. He didn't land on the Eastern Front. He was in the Pacific Theater. But I remember he was talking, and he said, does anybody have questions? And this one kid raised his hand and said that, or he asked that if he had ever seen the movie Saving Private Ryan, and how close was the battle scenes compared to what it was really like. And he said they were close enough. That's probably the closest he had ever seen in any movie. Said they did an amazing job with the movie, but it didn't even fit the mold of what the real thing was like. So just picture the opening 25 minutes to this movie plus 1,000, and I guarantee you that would barely fit the mold of how horrific that it was. It's just absolutely horrific. I mean, just what you see in this movie enough is horrific. One little detail at the end of this scene when they've pretty much taken Omaha Beach, and you have these two German soldiers, right? And turns out they're not actually German soldiers, they're Czech. And you have these two American soldiers coming up on them pointing guns, and the soldiers are waving, hey, putting their hands up, don't shoot us, we're not German, we're Czech. We didn't kill anybody. But because the American soldiers didn't understand them, and even though they were surrendering, they shot and killed him anyway. And I like that little detail because it proves in a way that there's some scummy people on the American side as well.
What? I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying. What'd he say?
Look, I washed for supper.
One thing this film does just amazing is this whole movie is so bleak and somber and just overall blistering. It's grueling. The battle scenes are all blistering, but it's like I said, it's got this very somber feel throughout the whole thing. It just feels so bleak. It feels like there's not really a light at the end of the tunnel, and that's war. War is completely devastating. And one of my favorite scenes, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you this right now, as iconic as that Omaha Beach scene is, it's not even my favorite scene in the movie. And we'll get to my favorite scene. But not my favorite scene, but one of my favorite scenes is just the scene where Mrs. Ryan, is informed all at once that her three out of 4 of her sons were killed in combat. It's really devastating. And your story here is actually really simple. It's about John Miller, Captain John Miller, played by Tom Hanks, taking his men behind enemy lines to get Private Ryan the hell out of there. Maybe you don't even know if he's alive at this point, but just assuming that he's alive, I mean, you're taking a big risk getting taking those guys behind enemy lines getting killed. But the chances that he's alive are really slim. But if he is alive, you want to get him the hell out of there and get him home to his mother to ease her suffering, which I don't even think that would be enough to completely ease her suffering. And I know they addressed that in the movie, too. Because her 3 other sons were killed, and I think that would be completely devastating, and that would probably change her forever. And that's a mother's worst nightmare, is losing their children is a mother's worst nightmare. But a lot of people, I've read reviews for this movie, these are more recent reviews, they say, oh, the characters are completely hollow in this movie and have no character or personality. I mean, come on, seriously? Like, do people do they need their hands held for them nowadays? Are we at a point where we just, like, throughout an entire movie, we need to be spoon-fed everything and have our hands held for us? Do you need an in-depth analysis of what's going through John Miller's mind? I mean, it's pretty obvious he has PTSD because throughout the film you see him do this a lot. His hands are always shaking. It's got something to do with PTSD. You have Ryben, played by Edward Burns, who's doubtful of the whole mission. You can tell he doesn't want to be there. He thinks this is stupid. He thinks it's ridiculous that they're risking the lives of 8 men to save 1 guy, and I can't blame him to an extent, but you do have Ted Danson to kind of confirm your belief there later in the movie that what they're doing is the right thing. That's kind of why Ted Danson's character, yes, Ted Danson's in this movie, people may not realize that. And then you got, he's not in the movie very long either, but, and then you got the kind of the gung-ho sniper, played by Barry Pepper. Jackson is the character's name, Private Jackson. He's kind of always itching to use this sniper rifle, and, you know, I mean, he's a very talented sniper throughout this movie, and, you know, his mission for being there is just to win the war. And then you got the medic played by, I think it's Giovanni Ribisi, I think is how you would say that. I'm not entirely sure. I've seen him in lots of other stuff, like The Wonder Years and all kinds of stuff. He's in a lot of stuff that I like. But he plays the medic who, I mean, if you're going into combat, you might want to take a medic with you. His character is very essential to this, you know, storyline until a certain event happens that results in the squad no longer having a medic with them. And we got Mellish and Caparzo, played by Adam Goldberg, and Vin Diesel. And you can tell they're friends, and they've probably been fighting alongside each other for a little bit now. They have really good chemistry together while they're on the screen together. They're a really entertaining group of friends that are, you know, they kind of add a little bit of humor. It's not like over-the-top humor or anything like that. It's kind of just general humor. Like, I guess I've never been in the military, but I'm sure soldiers like to joke around and kind of get their minds off of what the fuck's going on and have a little bit of relief. And, you know, that's kind of what they're there for. And then you got the second in command kind of guy, Mike Horvath is the character's name, played by Tom Sizemore. He's kind of John Miller's second in command. He's the sergeant. And this guy is built like a tank, and he practically is a walking tank. You know, this guy is built for war. He's got this very intense personality. And like I said, he's built for war. As opposed to another character, Corporal, played by Timothy Upham is the character's name, played by Jeremy Davies. And Tom Sizemore's character is built for war. This guy, not so much. Not so much. This guy is practically afraid of his own shadow, and to be fair, he can't really fight his way out of a wet paper bag. He was already skeptical going into combat, saying, oh, I've never been in combat before, I just make maps and I translate. So this is kind of new to him. And obviously he has a character arc throughout the movie, and it's a wonderful character arc. But yeah, that's kind of your cast, your main characters. And they're all really good, all really well made. they're more than just good. I don't know. I'm so biased to this movie. I love all the characters. And, I mean, Tom Hanks' character is my favorite in the movie. But, yes, all the characters here, even some of the ones you come across, like Paul Giamatti's character, you run into Paul Giamatti for a little bit, and he's, you know, a really well done character. And then your other characters, Private Ryan, played by Matt Damon, which that was one of his first, I think that was his second role. Matt Damon, I'm not really the hugest Matt Damon fan in the world. I mean, I was a fan of the first 3 Bourne films, and Good Will Hunting is great, but I think this is the movie that I can watch Matt Damon in, and I think he's a perfect fit for this character, really. I know they had approached like Ed Norton and other characters to play Private Ryan, but I think they made the right choice with Matt Damon, because I think Matt Damon was just perfectly casted for Private Ryan. The battle scenes, however, wow. Even the ones past the Omaha Beach scene. Like I said, the Omaha Beach scene is not even my favorite in the movie. My favorite scene in the movie is the final battle scene. And even the battle scene, the little battle scene at the MG-42 nest that results in the squad no longer carrying a medic, because that was a very, very poor choice from Captain Miller. Very, very poor choice. But you got to think about it from his perspective as well. He's a captain of a squad that's already lost one guy. He's dealing with PTSD as it is. He's already been through a lot. And I think it was just the stress getting to him, because you know what? He was thinking, we take out this MG-42 nest and we, you know, keep it from the next American convoy coming through and getting completely ripped to shreds by an MG-42. In a way, I can see why he made the decision, but I don't think it was the right decision for what they had. They had 8 guys, and they had a medic with them. And they could have just went around and completed their objective. That's what Mellish and Ryben were trying to explain to Miller, but Miller was dead set on taking out this MG-42 nest. But he says the main objective is to win the war, and in a way, he's right. And it ended up costing them their medic. They had a POW, Steamboat Willie, and that kind of, you know, that whole thing ended in a big conflict, because some people thought they shouldn't have let him go, and then others say it's the rules. You can't kill him. And they couldn't have. He's a POW. They couldn't take him with them. But they couldn't just kill him, because that would have been a war crime. So they really didn't have a lot of a choice to, you know, they had to let him go. And then that ended in the big conflict, which then leads into more character development for Captain Miller, as you find out he's a high school teacher in this little Pennsylvania town. He's the coach of the baseball team, and kind of talks Ryben, who's already doubtful of the mission, of, you know, he talks him into staying because he was already kind of mentally checked out, and now he's wanting to physically check out, but Captain Miller kind of gets him to stay. But yeah, no, my favorite scene in the movie, and probably my favorite scene in any movie ever, is the final battle scene to this movie. I mean, holy fuck, this one got my heart pumping. Basically how this came to be is that they found Private Ryan while taking out a German half-track, and they go back to the fictional town of Rommel, where they're ordered to defend a bridge. And what happens is that Ryan kind of just refuses to go home. So he says he doesn't want to leave. He's informed that his brothers were killed, has a moment, but says, I'm not leaving these guys behind because they're the only brothers I have. So now that kind of leaves John Miller and the rest of the Rangers in kind of a bind. They're kind of left in a bind. Like, what do we do? Do we just leave him here, or do we stay and help him get out of here? and then maybe we all have the right to go home afterwards. And it's just that key part there, making it out of here alive, because this battle scene, you just saw a little glimpse of it there, but this is probably, like I said, this might be my favorite cinematic scene in the history of cinema. My personal favorite, because even though the Omaha beach scene was so grueling and so blistering, I think because this one was a lot harder for me to watch. I mean, that thing is already hard to watch as it is. It's disturbing. But this one was this one hurt me a lot more because I had already got to know these characters so well, and most of them, spoiler alert, most of them die in this final battle scene, and it just really, like I said, this is a very devastating movie, and I think a lot of that lays, I mean, if there's not already enough heartbreak, I mean, the rest of the movie, there's already enough heartbreaking stuff in the rest of the movie, and then I think in here, they just hit you with all of it, with the rest of it all at once in this battle scene. So basically that's just another way for me saying that this movie is heartbreaking from the minute it starts to the minute it ends. It's devastating. But it's well done, and it's perfect. In the battle scene, basically what they're doing is they set up they get the sticky bombs out, and they're trying to lure this tank to come down. The first tank didn't take the bait, but the second one did. And then it kind of stops them in its tracks and gets the tank right where they want them. Then they've got Browning 30 cal machine guns set up in the tower and off to the side, and they're hosing down all the German troops. And, the battle just kind of ensues from there. So we start getting pushed back to the Alamo, or they fall back to the Alamo, which the Alamo was the bridge they were ordered to protect. They got that thing wired with explosives. They should be able just to blow that thing up. Well, things are not really, at this point right now, things are not really, as of right now, aren't really working out for John Miller and the rest of the cast. It's not really working out too well for them. And the satchel charge, it's not in a very good spot right now, where it's in it's in an open line of fire. So basically, if you walk out there, you're probably going to get shot. Well, John Miller decides that he's going to take that risk, and guess who we get to meet again? We get to meet Steamboat Willie. Yep, looks like he was picked up by his Wehrmacht and thrown back into circulation. And I guess Steamboat Willie decides to thank Captain Miller for letting him go by shooting him. And that was really... That just always, that scene just really pisses me off. I know that's what it's meant to do. The scene makes me really mad, and if that scene makes me mad, the actors and the directors were doing their job. So, no, it just makes me fucking mad. Steamboat Willie, Tom Hanks picks up a Colt, what was it? It was some kind of Colt pistol, and just does what he thinks he has to do, and starts shooting at the tank, and boom, tank blows up. The tank busters, the P-51s, come flying over and drop the fucking bombs on the tanks. And things start looking good for the Americans right now. The Germans are pushing back. Germans are kind of up shit creek right now. So, looks like the Americans kind of completed their objective. They protected the bridge until reinforcements arrived. And especially John Miller and the squad, what's left of them at this point, all 2 of them that are still alive. They got the mission accomplished, but then we get this.
James,
earned this. Earn it.
And the way the movie kind of closes off is that old man that you saw at the beginning in the cemetery was an older Private Ryan, there to really pay his respect to John Miller and the rest of his squad mates and the people that were there to rescue him, to get him home. He was paying their respect, had his family there, and basically he just wanted to confirm that he lived a good life and earned what they'd done for them. And the movie kind of closes there, and just the entire film was well acted. And I mean, yes, if you're sensitive to graphic violence, this is not the movie you need to watch. But I do think overall, wrapping this video up, I do think this is a movie that I think everybody should see at least one time in their life. If you don't ever want to watch it again because it's too much, I get it. But I think this is one that everybody needs to see one time because it's an experience. And I've came across people that don't like this movie, and it sets something off inside of me. I don't know what it is. I think it's just because it's my favorite movie, and I'm very passionate about this being my favorite film. And I will always defend it to the day I die. I personally don't think there will ever be another war movie that will top Saving Private Ryan. There's been great ones past it. I've loved Fury. I loved Hacksaw Ridge. 1917 was really good too. But you know what? As great as those movies were, I just don't think they were as good as Saving Private Ryan. But that's just my personal opinion. Even The Thin Red Line was really good. I didn't think it was as good as Saving Private Ryan. Even though Thin Red Line was also really good. For me, this is my favorite movie. And I'm glad that now I got to talk about it the way I wanted to do it. So, what did you guys think about Saving Private Ryan? Is this a movie you like? Is this a movie you don't? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'm out. Peace.